Minister of Maritime Affairs and the Blue Economy, Her Excellency Malgorzata Vasilevska, Head of the European Delegation to Barbados, Eastern Caribbean, the OECS, and CARICOM-CARIFORUM, Mr. Percival Murray, Director General of the Caribbean Forum of the Organization of African, Caribbean, and Pacific States, the CARIFORUM Directorate, and the CARICOM Secretariat, Mr. Daniel Bess, Director of the Projects Department of the Caribbean Development Bank, Mr. Peter Odell, Chairman of the Barbados Port Incorporated, Ms. Kim Osborne, Executive Secretary for Integral Development of the Organization of American States, Mr. Miguel Almeida, Head of the Private Sector Division of the Caribbean Development Bank, Mr. Norman Rice, President of the Transport Intermediaries of Barbados, government representatives, project beneficiaries, other specially invited guests. Welcome to this morning's launch of the project entitled Establishing the Barbados Port Community System. I'd like now to invite Mr. Daniel Bess to deliver the formal welcome and opening remarks.
The Honorable Kirk Humphrey, Minister of Maritime Affairs and the Blue Economy, Her Excellency Malgorzata Vasilevska, Head Delegation of the European Union to Barbados, the Eastern Caribbean States, the OECS and CARICOM-CARIFORUM, Mr. Percival Murray, Director General of the Caribbean Forum of African, Caribbean, and Pacific States, CARIFORUM Directorate, CARICOM Secretariat, Mr. Peter Odell, Chairman, Barbados Port Incorporated, Ms. Kim Osborne, Organization of American States, Executive Secretary for Integral Development, Mr. Miguel Almeida, Head Private Sector Division, Caribbean Development Bank, Mr. Norman Rice, President, Transport Intermediaries of Barbados, government representatives, project beneficiaries, other specially invited guests, members of the media, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Welcome to the launch of the second EPA and CSME Standby Facility project in Barbados. This is an exciting opportunity to bridge the digital divide in the current uncertain circumstances. The establishment of a Barbados Port Community System project brings into sharper focus the benefits of technology in improving service delivery and achieving development goals. Appreciation is extended to our partners, the European Union and the Organization of American States, for their assistance in bringing this project to fruition. The establishment of a PCS at the Port of Bridgetown aligns with the bank's focus on both private sector development and, in particular, improving the environment within which it has to do business, especially as it relates to trade infrastructure. The system, once instituted, will undoubtedly contribute to a more conducive business environment and increased competitiveness, with implications for Barbados's performance on the Ease of Doing Business ranking. Financing from the 11th EDF and specialist support from the Inter-American Committee on Ports at the OAS will drive this process to develop the digital interface. This is no small task, as the process requires technology, legislative, institutional, and governance arrangements for success. A fully implemented PCS will benefit all, including customs and excise and other state agencies, shippers, logisticians, private sector companies, general port clientele, and the wider public by eliminating many manual processes and generating greater efficiency. Delivering a port community system requires consensus, which is a Herculean task. The OAS and the board and management of Barbados Port Incorporated, the project's stakeholders, and the government of Barbados are all lauded for the robust social partnership and the high levels of commitment demonstrated in this regard. Barbados's small open economy will overcome several hurdles with the establishment of its PCS. The fusion of technology into a major artery of local and regional trade at the Port of Bridgetown will undoubtedly impact imported cargo intended for local consumption and cargo in transit, reducing operational costs and the cost of doing business. Both UNECLAC and the World Trade Organization identified bureaucratic delays as inhibiting the movement of goods across borders. Studies have shown that maritime transport in the region continues to be impeded by inadequate infrastructure and inefficient operations at ports. Interventions simplifying and minimizing these encumbrances have been advanced as a means of improving the current ecosystem. This requires expeditious movement, release and clearance of goods, which in turn will enable greater productivity and increased trade as articulated in the WTO Trade Facilitation Agreement, now in force. By fulfilling obligations under the WTO TFA, countries, including Barbados and others in the developing world, stand to benefit significantly while reducing trade costs and boosting global trade by a projected $1 trillion per year. Greater trade translates into greater economic opportunities. Despite upgrades at ports in Latin America, development of the Caribbean port industry has lagged. Maritime transport remains challenged by inadequate infrastructure and inefficient operations, resulting in delays and additional expenditure. The knock-on effect negatively impacts the cost of both imports and exports and dents competitiveness. This, along with the current state of the global economy, severely impacted by responses to the ongoing pandemic, continues to make prominent the need for infrastructure and efficiency-related interventions, informed by comprehensive government policy. Through this project and other interventions, CDB supports a broad range of activities aimed at addressing these and other challenges encountered by private and public sectors as a priority. The Port Development Project in St. Vincent and the Grenadines is one example. Here, the bank has financed a US $110 million loan and provided US $32 million grant from the United Kingdom Infrastructure Partnership Fund, administered by CDB, to construct a new cargo port, with the intent of modernizing and increasing the competitiveness of the private sector-led economy. A comprehensive evaluation of the existing port operations, with recommendations to improve efficiency, health, and safety in line with international best practice, has been completed, and infrastructure works are about to commence. The recently launched establishment of integrated border systems for the OECS project, which is supporting the development of a maritime single window in the OECS for faster processing of marine cargo and passengers, is another. In a global context, where trade has shrunk and economies and the business sector are maneuvering even more precarious futures with limited resources, Caribbean countries must look internally to strengthen systems which will not only stimulate economic activity, but enhance processes and services which facilitate trade. Regional integration and intra-regional trade must take center stage. Both state and private sectors are encouraged to double down on trade facilitation efforts, particularly in the maritime sector. Better services at our ports will undoubtedly lead to greater trade, revenue, and further improved services. Increased efficiency, connectivity, improved infrastructure enable competition and strengthen all sectors, creating pathways for citizens and economies to thrive. The bank has offered recommendations and created opportunities for policymakers to stimulate the industry in a meaningful way. Investment in technology is one strategy. Other pursuits involve berth productivity, impacting operational costs, and addressing port infrastructure and management, among others. Today, IT-based solutions are at the forefront with this PCS project. This project, while further cementing technology as an integral component of the daily operations of state-run entities, also buttresses social and economic development with the assistance of our partners. Technology, therefore, remains a driving force in our region's development. As the third initiative launched by the Standby Facility, and the second wholly focused on a digital solution, this action is both noteworthy and deliberate. The bank, today, with the launch of the establishment of a Barbados Port Community System project, reaffirms its commitment and support for the provision of state-of-the-art technology to advance cross-border trade. This activity aids in fulfilling internal obligations and improving the business environment to benefit trade and, more importantly, the economic circumstances of citizens. The input of all in the design and deployment of Barbados's PCS is highly appreciated, and your sustained support is therefore encouraged as we advance implementation for the benefit of local and regional citizens. Ladies and gentlemen, I thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Best. I'd now like to invite you to view a promotional video for the UU Standby Facility. Thank you.
A new standby facility, financed by the European Development Fund, EDF, and implemented by the Caribbean Development Bank, CDB, is underway. This regional program is designed to substantively improve citizens' lives and livelihoods by enhancing trade. The standby facility targets 15 Caribbean states with €8.75 million in funds. Whether producers or service providers, customers or employees in any sector, we are involved in trade. Trade is at the heart of our economies. It is part of our development DNA. Join us as we explore how the Standby Facility, the European Union and the CDB are supporting cooperation, the integration of regional economies, and improving our business environment by assisting governments, enterprises, and support entities. The Standby Facility, transforming lives through trade.
Thank you. I'd like to invite Mr. Peter Odell, Chairman of the Barbados Port, to deliver remarks.
Honourable Kirk Humphrey, Minister of Maritime Affairs and the Blue Economy, Her Excellency Małgorzata Wasilewska, Head of the Delegation of the European Union to Barbados, the Eastern Caribbean States, the OECS and CARICOM, Mr. Percival Marie, Director General of the Caribbean Forum of African, Caribbean, Pacific States, CARIFORUM Directorate, CARICOM Secretariat, Mr. Daniel Best, Director, Projects Department, Caribbean Development Bank, Mrs. Kim Osborne, Organization of American States, Executive Secretary for Integral Development, Mr. Miguel Almeida, Head of the Private Sector Caribbean Development Bank, Mr. Norman Rice, President, Transport Intermediaries of Barbados, government representatives, project beneficiaries, other specially invited guests, members of the media, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. On behalf of Barbados Port Inc., permit me to extend a very warm welcome and thank you for joining us this morning. Fellow directors of the board and management of Barbados Port Inc., I'm sure you're as excited as I am to have so many of our partners and stakeholders together for this event. We look forward to your continued partnership in this project as we endeavour to improve our competitiveness in trade facilitation and leverage the attendant benefits it will bring to the entire port community, the country of Barbados and the region as a whole. Only together can we be the innovative and sustainable port we aim to be. Seaports are often associated with large infrastructure projects. We must, however, remember that a port, like any other business, can only be successful if, in addition to enhancing its operations by building out new structures, it also builds on its community relations. And just as physical structures have to be maintained, these relations have to be nurtured and strengthened. I have no doubt that as we embark on this port community system project, the importance of embracing and involving stakeholders will become increasingly apparent. International case studies and good practices for implementing port community systems say implementation of a PCS is not an IT project, but rather a change management project. According to those studies, the key to a successful PCS is to build a true community of supply chain participants, where everyone recognizes that the benefits of working together towards a common goal are greater than working separately. The emphasis on collaboration and participation suggests that change management, incorporating strong stakeholder engagement, It's indispensable throughout this BCS development process. The project will see BPI taking the lead in its implementation over the next 30 months. BPI shall have responsibility for establishing a project steering committee that coordinates and guides the project implementation process. The PSC will be chaired by the Chief Executive Officer of the BPI, with support from his executive team, and is expected to comprise representatives from the Ministry of Maritime Affairs and the Blue Economy, the Ministry of Energy, Small Business and Entrepreneurship, Barbados Customs and Excise Department, Shipping Association of Barbados, the Barbados Customs Broker and Clerks Association, Inc., Transportation Intermediaries of Barbados, and the Barbados Chamber of Commerce and Industry. Only together can we realize the many ambitious community goals we share. For too long, those of us working in the logistics supply chain have encountered difficulties in doing business and trading internationally. Who among us has not faced uncertainties about arrival times because information isn't available? Who more often than not may have had to re-enter the same information into different systems because the system providers have different rules, and worse, the systems don't talk to one another? Who has not encountered different systems displaying different statuses because of information time and delays? Who does not have to communicate with multiple entities because each requires their own little piece of information pie? This is all very inefficient. How much time is wasted? How much cost is involved? How many opportunities are lost? As trading continues to evolve, we recognize that we also have to adapt to working smarter. Together, we must seize on the important themes of the day: innovation, information, smart tools, and technology. Implementation of this port community system will deliver tangible results to our stakeholders and will assist us in building more dynamic and effective partnerships. Imagine for a moment the entire port community of government agencies, customs, immigration, health authorities, trade agencies, shipping lines, freight forwarders, agents, trucking companies, customs brokers, shippers, importers, exporters, and others, along with representatives of the Barbados Port Inc., all utilizing a single services portal through which all trade, logistics, and business processes can be managed. Imagine a system where stakeholders have 24-hour access with secure, real-time processing and distribution of information, and tracking, tracing, and surveillance of cargo capabilities. Imagine a system which reduces the net cost of doing business while ensuring consistency in the logistics chain. Ladies and gentlemen, the system is not beyond our imagination. It is here, and it is happening now. This investment in the port, in our people, and in our port processes is being made so that we can better serve you, our partners. I ask you to join us in welcoming this opportunity to accelerate digitalization of maritime trade and logistics, improve our national doing business indices, and sharpen our competitiveness rankings internationally. Together, we must promote our port as a gateway of innovation. Ladies and gentlemen, in closing, I once again would like to thank all our partner agencies and you, our stakeholders, for your continuing support and commitment to assisting us in delivering this integrated system. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Odell. I'd like now to invite Mr. Norman Rice, President of the Barbados Transport Intermediaries Association, to deliver his remarks.
Protocol already having been established, I basically would like to say a few words on behalf of the transportation intermediaries, who are a group of third-party logistic providers, small package service providers, and consolidators who basically operate within the sphere of the Bridgetown Port. Therefore, any development within the port holds our keen interest. Our role is a pivotal one within the importation sector in Barbados. As a matter of fact, shipping goods around the world generally is a complex matter, right? That requires knowledge of routes, carriers, costs, regulations, available service levels, potential pitfalls, and much more. The logistic provider's role is to take that burden away from the importer, enabling companies to concentrate more on the real business at hand. Modern logistic supply chain demands efficiency at every step of the supply chain. Logistic providers are therefore expected to provide uninterrupted real-time visibility throughout the transportation process, much like the FedEx and DHL models that we are familiar with. Of course, it is a bit more complicated for ocean transportation based on the requirement to combine multiple modes of transport transiting third-party terminals on a single transaction. And sometimes these transactions are from very remote places. For example, on a daily basis, we can find ourselves coordinating a pickup by truck from an inland point in China. That cargo is then moved by barge to a rail depot, and then it gets on a train and moves to a port where it is loaded on a ship for Barbados. All these things happen behind the scene. And why we are able to do it seamlessly is because of the information that we're getting from all the other third parties in between, from the ports, from the barge company, from the rail company, etc. Throughout this process, we are expected by the customer to be able to provide them with up-to-date cargo positioning on demand. Ports like ours therefore play an important role in this process by providing the information in real time to allow us to update our systems in order for the customer to have the info. It is from this background that the shipping community welcomes and endorses the Ports Initiative to embark on this PCS project. We see it as bringing numerous and in some cases overdue efficiencies and value to the industry. Based on what we know of PCS systems, we hope to benefit from fewer and more simplified processes, especially as it relates to documentation, better information flow, resulting in faster turnaround times, enhanced cargo visibility through cargo tracking, real-time status information, namely the status of the container, their dispositions, whether they're on shelf or not, location of LCL cargo in the shed, faster turnaround times in the shed through enhanced inventory management, also access to delivery confirmations like gate passes and gate movements and stuff like that, and access to on-stuffing tallies. We also expect that there will be more availability of data for trade and marketing purposes. For example, ports of origins of cargo, commodities, cargo volumes, etc. And especially we look forward to the convenience of being able to do business in one space. Certainly, we expect the coming of the PCS to translate into more standardized systems, more efficient and effective communication flows between stakeholders, and importantly, cost savings to all the users, along with better information flows to both our customers and our principals. This, in turn, will translate into making us a more competitive port for doing business and will generally result in more satisfied port users. We therefore welcome this project and trust that that input is continued to be sought and considered from all the stakeholders at every juncture. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Rice. I'd like now to invite Ms. Kim Osborne, Executive Secretary for Integral Development at the Organization of American States, to deliver her remarks.
Good morning, distinguished representatives. Protocol having been established, I will simply go into my prepared remarks. Thank you for the opportunity to join you at the launch of this most important activity for Barbados. As the development arm of the OAS, our goal continues to be to strengthen the institutional, human resource, and technical capacity of all member states as they drive their own socioeconomic development. In so doing, we continue to harness the power of partnerships and cooperation in all its modalities to accelerate action and deliver concrete results. The Inter-American Committee on Ports, the CIP of the OAS, serves as a permanent inter-American forum of OAS member states to strengthen hemispheric cooperation in the port sector development with the active cooperation and collaboration of the private sector. Through cooperation agreements between the CIP and several international associations and agencies, the OAS provides multidisciplinary technical assistance to its membership for technical training, technical and professional training and certification, operational assessment, digitalization reforms, regulatory and operation reforms, among others, for our ports sector. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, ports are fundamental drivers of socioeconomic development, with port and marine industries, according to United Nations, moving up to 90% of global trade, and with nearly 95% of ports from Latin America and the Caribbean. The level of efficiency of ports impacts the cost of imports and exports, and thereby affects the competitiveness of national economies, and by extension, the cost of living and level of poverty in our countries. Importantly too, ports play a critical role in disaster response and recovery. We are delighted that Barbados has decided to implement a port community system, a neutral and open electronic platform enabling intelligent and secure exchange of information between public and private stakeholders to enhance efficiency and their competitive position. This modular system with functionality designed to provide the various sectors and port players within a port community port environment with tools specific to them, thus delivering an integrated and automated system. In this context, it is a great honor and privilege for the Inter-American Committee on Ports of the OAS to be part of the establishment of this PCS, particularly since Barbados is an executive member of the CIP board. In this particular case, the CIP will inform and guide the establishment of the Barbados PCS and coordinate a team of experts to produce several deliverables. At the completion of this project, Barbados will become the second member state in the Caribbean to establish a PCS. I take this opportunity to thank all our collaborators. I wish to especially extend thanks to our colleagues at the Caribbean Development Bank for their technical support and for providing resources for this activity. The CDB has continued to be a valued partner and a strong supporter of the port sector. We look forward to collaborating with you in the near future. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, the OAS is honored to be part of this journey and congratulates the government of Barbados for its leadership, determination, and courage to become a change maker in the region. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Osborne. I'd like now to invite Mr. Percival Marie, Director General of the Caribbean Forum of the Organization of African, Caribbean, and Pacific States to deliver his remarks.
Honorable Minister Humphrey, Head of the EU delegation in Barbados, Mr. Daniel Best, Mr. Peter Olu, Ms. Kim Osborne, Mr. Norman Rice, Mr. Miguel Almeida, other invited guests, members of the media, ladies and gentlemen. First, let me apologize for the absence of the Secretary General of CARIFORUM, who had been invited to participate in this particular event. He's asked me to extend to you his sincere apologies and to give an indication that he fully supports this particular project. He wished he could have been here with us. This is the second occasion on which I've had the opportunity to participate in the launch of a project under the CARIFORUM EU EPA and CSME standby facility for capacity building in which Barbados is involved. This is a clear indication of the interest shown by Barbados in the facility, and it also gives a clear indication that the facility is meeting part of its objectives. One of the objectives of the CARIFORUM EU EPA and CSME standby facility is to give direct access to CARIFORUM states to the resources of the 11th EDF CARIFORUM Regional Indicative Program to address critical national needs related to the EPA and to the CSME. In the design of the 11th EDF CARIFORUM Regional Indicative Program, we were aware on the basis of experience that while we tried to promote regional approaches to the resolution of critical challenges, national capacity to meaningfully participate in these regional activities was lacking. A specific sum from the Regional Indicative Program was allocated to the standby facility, and the CDB kindly consented to operate and manage that facility on behalf of the CARIFORUM region. We are pleased that states such as Barbados are making optimum and maximum use of that standby facility. I am particularly pleased to participate in the launch of this particular project, which seeks to build capacity in a CARIFORUM state by establishing a PCS for Barbados. This facility will address a number of problems identified in the logistics service chain, which negatively impact the time and cost for documentary and border compliance and operational port efficiency in Barbados. It will increase port efficiency in Barbados by providing a range of services and will increase the trade competitiveness of the country. It will also introduce simplification, standardization, and rationalization and harmonization of clearance processes, procedures, and documentation by digitalization. In a nutshell, the project will address a critical element of maritime transport which constrains competitiveness in the region. From a CARIFORUM perspective, anything which enhances the trade competitiveness of Barbados will increase Barbados's and CARIFORUM's utilization of the trade provisions of the CARIFORUM EU EPA. Similarly, improved trade competitiveness in Barbados will assist the country in taking advantage of the provisions of the CSME. From a CARIFORUM perspective, we are pleased to facilitate a partnership with the BPI and the collaborative support of the OAS. CARIFORUM is pleased to be associated with the launch of this project and looks forward to its successful implementation. As with all other standby facility projects, we believe that other CARIFORUM states will be able to learn from the experience of Barbados in this specific project. We sincerely hope for successful implementation of this project. Thank you, Madam Moderator.
Thank you very much, Director General. I'd like now to invite Ambassador Vaskileska to deliver her remarks.
Honourable Kirk Humphrey, Minister of Maritime Affairs and the Blue Economy, Mr. Percival Marie, Director General of the CARIFORUM Directorate in the Caribbean Community Secretariat, Mr. Peter Oddle, Chairman, Barbados Port Incorporated, Ms. Kim Osborne, Executive Secretary for Integral Development Organization of American States, Mr. Miguel Almeida, Head Private Sector Caribbean Development Bank, Mr. Daniel Best, Director Projects Department, Caribbean Development Bank, Mr. Norman Rice, President, Transport Intermediaries of Barbados, development partners, government representatives, project beneficiaries, other specially invited guests, members of the media, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning to all the participants who are taking part in this virtual launch on the various streaming platforms. The European Union once again takes pleasure in participating in another successful project launch, the third in this case, under the current standby facility. Let me extend at this point my congratulations to the Caribbean Development Bank, the Barbados Port Incorporated, and other stakeholders involved. The establishment of a port community system will have a direct impact on the operations of the Barbados port. It is expected that the PCS will increase efficiency and transparency in the trading and clearance of goods as a result of reduced clearance times, lower compliance costs, and improved document workflow through digitalization. The PCS will provide seamless automation in the local trade facilitation process, and these combined improvements will ultimately see Barbados move closer towards world-class standards and port operations with enhanced logistics efficiency, trade competitiveness, and improvements in the ease of doing business. Dear friends, this great initiative being launched today falls in line with the series of projects supported by the Standby Facility, funded by the European Union and managed by the CDB. The standby facilities were created to support member states in the region in the effective implementation of the Economic Partnership Agreement and the Caribbean Single Market and Economy. The standby facilities provide assistance in addressing the various impediments to trade that may be unique to each country. EU funds are typically used to equip producers to meet international standards in food safety, technical regulations for goods, improving the capacity of manufacturers to access new markets, and improving the regulatory environment for business, and improving the customs and trade facilitation process. Ladies and gentlemen, we can all recognize that more has to be done for the region to fully capitalize on the Economic Partnership Agreement and to advance on the implementation of the CSME. This is why the EU continues to focus and provide support for the implementation of both the EPA and the CSME, both at the national and regional level. The standby facility forms part of a wider program of support under the European Union's €21 million grant for the implementation of the Economic Partnership Agreement, which also includes support to the Caribbean in 5 other areas: innovation and intellectual property rights, technical barriers to trade, sanitary and phytosanitary measures, capacity building in the areas of competition, public procurement, and customs and trade facilitation. The overall objective of the program is to contribute to the integration of CARIFORUM into the world of economy and the effective operation of the EPA. The EU has also contributed €13 million towards the strengthening the CSME integration and cooperation process. Under this program, we'll support 2 main objectives: improving the institutional, regulatory, and financial environment relevant to the consolidation of the CSME, and improving the effectiveness in use and management of technology, statistics, and knowledge relevant to CSME. Colleagues, as we enter into what might be called a post-COVID reality, it is imperative that we continue to work together for the future economic sustainability of the region. Collaboration is key as we try to navigate these uncharted global economic waters, where greater emphasis should be placed on increased digitalization, efficient global supply chains, and goods and services that meet the highest standards possible. Finally, in closing, on behalf of the EU, I would like to reiterate our support to the region through the initiatives like this PCS system and the other projects follow under the standby facility. I wish to once again congratulate all the parties involved in this project, the CDB, BPI, OAS, and others who made this possible. And as a relative newcomer to this country, I look forward to meeting all of you in person in better times. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Ambassador. And I'd like now to invite Minister Humphrey to deliver the feature remarks.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair. It is a pleasure, of course, to follow you, Ambassador, We have met briefly, but we haven't had the opportunity to convene a conversation in what has now become official space, because we now must have these conversations via Zoom. But I look forward to welcoming you officially on behalf of the government of Barbados, and of course, the many projects on which we have to work on together. But it's really good to see you this morning. I must also tell you, Ambassador, that I saw a video of you as you were leaving Jamaica, and you spoke so highly of the country that I can only hope your experience in Barbados is twice as nice, and you leave with even more pleasant memories of Barbados. I also want to welcome Mr. Percival Marie, Mr. Daniel Best, of course, my friend, the chairman, Mr. Peter Odell, Ms. Kim Osborne, Mr. Miguel Algueda, Mr. Norman Rice, and all of the other representatives of all the various governments, the media, the staff of the Bridgetown Port, all the persons with whom we have relationship, all the various stakeholders, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, those who are following via our social media pages, good morning. I want to begin first of all by saying that this project started as an idea for us. And it is really a good thing to see an idea come to fruition. I remember the initial conversations where we had thought that Barbados should move, and I had so much vigor behind it, toward a maritime single window. And the members in the port pushed me toward a PCS. And I am therefore very grateful this morning to see that we are at this stage. But let me take this opportunity to acknowledge and express thanks, of course, on behalf of the government of Barbados, to all of you who have played such a tremendous role in making this port community system possible. It is always a pleasure to celebrate these milestones with so many representatives of the trade, port, and logistics sector as we continue to strive toward the transformation of the Bridgetown Port into an international competitive logistics hub. And I say that, and I don't wish for people to think that these are just words, because there is now a new thrust and vision in the Port of Bridgetown to really become an international competitive logistics hub. And I want to thank the former chair, who is now Minister of Tourism, and of course I wish to thank the current chair, Mr. Peter Odell, and the management for driving this process forward. But ladies and gentlemen, the world as we know it continues to get smaller, with its national economies increasingly becoming more integrated with their trading partners. The port, whether a maritime port or an airport, is usually the point at which global supply chains physically intersect with import and export compliance requirements, comprising government approvals, licenses, and permits, together with customs clearance and inspections. These things are not easy. And therefore, it is really a good thing when we start to work together to make these things a little bit more palatable for people and increase the competitiveness of the region. The information which dictates the pace of these import-export formalities and the attendant trade, transport, and logistics processes are increasingly being processed via ICT-facilitated platforms, commonly known as electronic single windows. Barbados, in pursuit of compliance with its obligations under the International Maritime Organization Convention on Facilitation of International Maritime Traffic, has, through the Barbados Port, built the necessary information and communications technology architecture for the establishment of a national maritime single window, as required by the April 2019 amendment to the FAL. And this gives me such tremendous pleasure to be able to say and to announce. The maritime single window is intended to handle vessel reporting formalities, such as the arrival, stay, and departure of ships, advanced electronic cargo information, port reception facilities, and crew shore leave information. We recognize that effective deployment of the maritime single window would require a significant amount of business process simplification and re-engineering. Information technology adoption was vital, together with the application of key international standards, rationalization of trade legislation, and significant collaboration between the public sector and the private sector. The management and oversight of this collaborative effort, as you would imagine, demand a sophisticated governance effort. I am happy to say The government shall be introducing legislation shortly to support the full implementation of the FAL Convention as it relates to the use of the maritime single window in Barbados for vessel trading and moving in our space. Hopefully, it is my intention to have this legislation before the Parliament of Barbados by the end of April. It is already in draft, and we are therefore hopeful that we can have it before the Parliament and debate it and pass into legislation. It was also recognized that there was an urgent need to improve the competitive position of our port. The government of Barbados therefore thought it prudent to go beyond the single window with the creation of an overarching enhanced trade facilitation framework in the form of a port community system, PCS. As mandated by the Cabinet of Barbados, therefore, the port in earnest sought to access financial and technical resources from the CARIFORUM EU EPA CSME standby facility to develop a cloud-based PCS. This PCS is considered a critical infrastructural element and a reform tool for the trade facilitation architecture in Barbados. Focused on achieving seamless automation, it will support and complement ongoing trade facilitation and competitiveness, enhancing reforms being implemented by the government to address national transport and logistics constraints. The PCS, in my view, however, is more than a technical response. It affords us as a government a policy position that helps us to not only manage needs, but also to rectify existing challenges, maximize opportunities for the advancement of Barbados and the region within the maritime space. This project will bring Barbados in compliance with Article 10 of the World Trade Organization Trade Facilitation Agreement, which involves the streamlining formalities and documentation requirements, accepting paper or electronic copies instead of original documents, implementing single window that enables sharing of information between trade actors through a single platform. And I smile as I read this because I know in our sessions when we were meeting, these things are the things that people are very, very concerned about. The idea that people should be able to present copies instead of having to have the original documents and so on. I'm glad to see that these things are being resolved. This project will also complement the current reform efforts under the Barbados Economic Recovery and Transformation Program known as BERT, aimed at restoring fiscal and debt sustainability and increasing growth by improving the environment for doing business in Barbados. In particular, it will leverage actions being undertaken towards improving the business climate and streamlining processes through digitalization of several government departments, including customs and the port. At a regional level, the PCS project supports the achievement of sustainable development goals, targets relevant to the Caribbean, in particular SDG targets 9 and 12, industry innovation and infrastructure, and responsible production. The government of Barbados' approach to digitalization of our processes as a priority activity from the very start has better positioned us to service the public, even in the midst of challenging circumstances precipitated by the COVID-19 pandemic. As the pandemic triggered restrictions and disruptions across ports, shipping and supply chains, we, at the Port of Bridgetown, escalated plans for the development of digital solutions to enhance port performance and ensure business continuity. And I wish, of course, to commend the Bridgetown Port for this fantastic work that allowed the government to function even in the face of these challenging circumstances. In addition to the development of Maritime Single Window, BPI created an electronic payment platform and an electronic appointment system, the latter of which seeks to ensure cargo is processed and delivered, and that exports are facilitated in an efficient and timely manner. The appointment system further allows for joint cargo inspections to be undertaken by the customs, port health authorities, and regulatory agencies, therein reducing the time spent in facilitating clearance. Again, this is one of the things that I feel extremely happy to be able to announce and to discuss, that all of the government agencies are now working together in unison to deliver a much more efficient product and service to the people of Barbados, and of course to the people of the region and the world. These initiatives exemplify the critical importance of strengthening supply chains and resilience and preparedness in the face of shocks and disruptions. And it is precisely this approach to transformation that will protect us from things both known and unknown as the world that we know continues to evolve. In the summer of 2019, following concerns raised by the Barbados Private Sector Association, the Barbados Social Partnership, chaired by the Honorable Prime Minister of Barbados, Mia Mottley, established a subcommittee of the Social Partnership to examine performance and efficiency of the Bridgetown Port. This subcommittee, under my chairmanship, identified key problems within the logistics supply chain and prescribed several solutions in the context of local operational inventions, policy interventions, information technology enhancements, and private sector-led initiatives. And again, I wish to thank all the members of that subcommittee who showed up, who came prepared to work, who rolled their sleeves up and got down to doing the business on behalf of Barbados. The subcommittee also isolated Barbados's performance in the World Bank doing business trading across borders indicators, which would benefit from significant improvement if the reform processes were undertaken successfully. In addition, the subcommittee created cross-correlations between specific interventions and the targeted impact on trading across borders rankings, setting time-bound goals for ranking improvements based on documentary and border compliance processes and improvements. Barbados ranks at a less than satisfactory 132 in the trading across borders indicators. I must tell you as I speak that this is one of the things that I hate to have to repeat. And therefore, I say to the chair and the members of the Bridgetown Port and all those who do business in Barbados, really all the stakeholders, that this must be the last time in an official speech that we mention Barbados ranks at less than satisfactory 132. And I know the work that is being done in the port will guarantee that this is the last time we have to speak these words in relation to Barbados's ranking. However, the port continues to advance the various tasks identified by the subcommittee, and I am pleased to report that there has been some improvements, several improvements, not only in its enhancements, but also the delivery rate for cargo through the port. Let me elaborate. Following the introduction of a new terminal management system, by 2019, dwell time for direct deliveries was reduced to 7 days, while dwell time for local imports less than container loads was reduced from 5 days to 3 days. While COVID-19 has had a negative impact on average dwell time during most of 2020, we are satisfied that the systems in the port create a significantly improved container flow. And no doubt the PCS implementation will further reduce average dwell time in the Bridgetown port, as it must. There has also been improvements in truck turnaround time. Whereas it was registered at 45 minutes in January 2020, that time was down to 38 minutes at the end of last month and will continue to go down. The port obviously continues to work toward a target of 30 minutes. In line with the recommendations stemming from the World Bank assessment and the overarching goal to further enhance port performance and efficiency, BPI has embarked on a strategy to advance digitalized port operations through the in-house development of integrated software. BPI has established a digital innovation and development department with a dedicated complement of appropriate skills. And this team will work toward the development of the PCS with technical assistance through the consultancy services and expertise provided by the OAS, and I want to thank the OAS, to map out the legal and governance structure based on identified modules, as well as the business processes and analysis for port and non-port stakeholders. The total cost of the PCS project is estimated at €540,258. The CDB, through a grant from its special fund resources allocated from the CARIFORUM EU Economic Partnership Agreement, CARICOM Single Market and Economy Standby Facility for Capacity Building under the 11th European Development Fund, will fund 47%, or 253,418 euros of the project cost. The Bridgetown Port will provide counterpart funding of 53%, or 286,840 euros. Our vision. The goal of the PCS is not simply to support port operations. Our vision is to enable the electronic exchange of information between all in the port and logistics sector, including the proposed National Electronic Single Window, as well as the recently implemented Asikuda system, which will result in a reduction of the cost of port operations and add value and efficiency through the entire logistics and transportation chain. And again, I also feel like we need to acknowledge the fact that the Asikuda system was implemented successfully, and the benefits that now bring to Barbados as well, and those who do business in Barbados, and all those who were instrumental in ensuring that it happens, including the Bridgetown Port, which I must say had a leading role as well in that process. We want to see time to market reduced through services that handle booking, scheduling, tracking, and documentation. The entire door-to-door shipment processes tracked and traced. Trade permit declarations simplified with services to assist the cargo clearance process. Gate clearance at the port automated. Information sharing allowing haulers and truckers to better plan movements and improve overall turnaround times. The number of processes and documents exchanged reduced. Vast amounts of information handled faster, and the redundant data entries eliminated by interfaces between systems, making a data acquisition more reliable. Look, if COVID has taught us anything, it is that the way we were doing business in the past can no longer obtain. And those persons who would have shunned doing things in an online manner must now come to face with the realities that this is the only way now to do business. And I'm thankful that the Bridgetown Port, the customs, the government of Barbados has started on this process even before COVID. And I just wanted to reiterate that point. With infrastructure and services, business logistics and trade facilitation proven to be the winning framework and policy levers needed to build an effective logistics system, we have sought to create a logistics framework that includes the hardware, the physical infrastructure needed to move goods effectively, and the software, which covers the associated services and processes needed to move and trade goods effectively. In striding toward this new framework, we acknowledge that the strength of our logistic chain will be determined by its weakest link. We, however, press ahead, confident that the development of the PCS will move all partners towards process optimization and efficiency, collaborative logistics and automation, therein eliminating any weaknesses and threats. In closing, ladies and gentlemen, we are ever so grateful to our development partners who have collaborated with us, ensuring the implementation of this project at the Bridgetown Port. I thank all of you, all of our partners, and all the stakeholders for your continued support. And I give you the assurance that the Bridgetown Port, as well as the government of Barbados, will continue to work in your interest as we digitalize all of our processes. It is our hope that we maintain our usual cooperation in the years to come to achieve all that which we have set out to accomplish. And we have set out to accomplish a lot. And I believe we will be able to do it together. Ladies and gentlemen, I thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, Minister Humphrey. I'd like now to invite Mr. Miguel Almeida Casillas, head of our new private sector division here at the Caribbean Development Bank, to deliver the vote of thanks and closing remarks.
The Honorable Kirk Humphrey, Minister of Maritime Affairs and the Blue Economy. Her Excellency Margosata Vasqueleska, Head of the Delegation of the European Union to Barbados, the Eastern Caribbean States, and the OECS and CARICOM and CARIFORUM. Mr. Percival Murray, Director General of the Caribbean Forum of African, Caribbean, and Pacific States, CARIFORUM Directorate, and CARICOM Secretariat. Mr. Daniel Best, Director, Project Department of the Caribbean Development Bank. Mr. Peter Odle, Chairman of the Barbados Port, Inc. Ms. Kim Osborne, Executive Secretary for Integral Development, of the Organization of American States, Mr. Norman Rice, President of the Transport Intermediaries of Barbados, government representatives and project beneficiaries, and other specially invited guests, members of the media, ladies and gentlemen. As the newly appointed head of the private sector division at the bank, I am pleased to participate in this launch, which engages and benefits all sectors of the economy. Our member countries are assured that through the standby facility and other initiatives, the division is aggressively pursuing opportunities to partner and build capacity to facilitate the private sector's growth. The new division manages an expansive portfolio which includes the supervision of lines of credit to 14 financial intermediaries for student loans, equity investments, mortgage finance, small and medium-sized enterprises, and microfinance lending and direct portfolio lending. The appraisal of lines of credit to financial institutions and other organizations providing services focused on addressing access to finance, and the preparation, appraisal, and supervision of financial intermediary lending, direct private sector projects, private equity operations, and investment climate support. All these interventions contribute to the bank's vision of transforming lives and livelihoods through sustained development. Today, I have the privilege of highlighting those persons and organizations who have contributed in a meaningful way to the accomplishment of this milestone. As we conclude the launch of the project establishment of a Barbados port community system, I would like to acknowledge first and foremost our partners who have assiduously worked with us to ensure the actualization and delivery of an impactful intervention. Honorable Minister, we are appreciative of your public gesture and support for this project, which will, once completed, significantly impact business operations and the ease of doing business. Ambassador Vasquez-Leiska, my sincerest thanks for your kind words today and the European Union's delegation's contribution to this project. We are encouraged and resolute that the progress made will undoubtedly bring us one step closer to creating and enabling the optimal environment for the growth and expansion of our private sector. Mr. Percival Mary and Ms. Kim Osborne, your presence today reassures us that CARICOM and CARIFORUM and the OAS are committed to the thrust of the bank to advance economic integration and regional cooperation. Now to the beneficiaries and implementers, Mr. Peter Odell and Mr. Norman Rice. You have today demonstrated the power of public-private public-private sector partnership. Thank you for your perspectives on the value of this project in your respective realms. Director Daniel Best, we appreciate your time and the insights shared as CDB continues to support private sector-led development and increased competitiveness. And finally, to Andrea Powers and the Regional Cooperation and Integration Unit, we are grateful for your efforts in developing yet another major multi-partner project under the standby facility. We are encouraged and anticipating impactful and successful implementation of these future projects financed by the EPA and CSME standby facility for capacity building. Thank you all and have a nice day.
Thank you very much, Miguel. That brings us to the close of this morning's event. I'd like to thank our presenters this morning, our audience for staying with us for the past hour, and I wish you all a pleasant day. Thank you.